That's where it started.
Hello, this is Paul.
This is Laura.
And I'm Alton.
We are Team Derringer.
And you are listening to Derringer Discoveries,
where we take you, the listener, on an adventure.
a music adventure.
I need to be myself. I can't be no one else. I'm feeling supersonic.
This is episode 78, Oasis returns with special guest Alexander Joseph.
Today was gonna be the day, but they'll never throw it back to you.
Listeners, this is Derringer Discoveries. We are in our 5th year. That's right, our 5th year. Today, we will be talking about Oasis.
Slip inside the eye of your mind. Don't you know you might find a better place to play?
No episode of Derringer Discoveries is complete without mentioning the featured artist, in this case Oasis, and how many monthly listeners they have on Spotify.
Spotify's monthly listeners metric is a go-to benchmark for evaluating an artist's reach on the largest streaming platform.
You can go look for yourself. Just pull up Spotify, but I'll tell you how many they have as of the recording of this episode.
And there was much rejoicing.
They are at 23.3 million monthly listeners.
Hey, that's a lie. Whoa. Yeah.
Let's put that in text that everyone will understand. That puts them solidly in the top 300 worldwide.
I'm a rock and roll star.
You are listening to Derringer Discoveries.
With listeners in more than 30 countries.
This is Victoria Beebe from the UK, London. You are listening to Derringer Discoveries, a music adventure podcast.
By way of a brief history, the band that would later become Oasis was formed in 1991 under the name Rain, R-A-I-N. Liam Gallagher replaced the original lead singer, and his brother, Noel Gallagher, later joined the band as lead guitarist and songwriter.
We're all part of a master plan.
The lineup has changed over the years, but Oasis is defined by the Gallagher brothers. That's right, Liam and Noel Gallagher. That defines Oasis. Their sound was a departure from the grunge bands that dominated the airwaves in the early 90s.
Some may say a welcome departure.
Some may. Not all of us, but some.
Yeah, don't come at me, Nirvana fans.
Oh, Laura, let's have them send the hate mail to Laura Derringer.
That's right. We'll have to change the forwarding from Paul's email address. Fast forward from 1991 to 1994, and the band released their first album, Definitely Maybe. And I'm sure about that. However, it was their 1995 release of What's the Story? Morning Glory that really put the band on the map, and the hits that came off of that album still resonate with fans today.
Today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you. By now,
It remains one of the best-selling rock albums of all time.
and after all, you're my wonderwall.
Yeah, absolutely. And joining us today to talk about his top 5 Oasis songs so far is UK-based recording artist Alexander Joseph. Welcome to the show, and should we call you Alexander or do you go by Alex?
Let's keep this less formal. Let's go with Alex, shall we?
Okay, absolutely.
Well, welcome, Alex.
Yeah, great to have you.
Yeah, good to have you, Alex.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So, Alex, we're going to talk about all things Oasis, but first, introduce our listeners to your music and your career so far. Is there a particular song or album of yours that you'd like our Derringer Discoveries listeners to know about?
Right. Well, first of all, yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk about Oasis. This is really cool. But as for my music, which is, I can't quite compare myself to their monthly listeners, unfortunately, but we're getting there slowly. But yeah, my musical journey, I guess, stemmed back from like school years when I picked up a guitar and actually tried to play Nirvana and Oasis. Not too brilliantly at that time, I have to admit. But went on from school bands into university years where I met some good mates and we formed a band of our own called The Roots, spelled Routes, because we lived all over the country. So we had to make our way to a common rehearsal place or gig, and we had a great time. Lots of cover songs performed, tried out a few of my early tracks, which you won't hear. And it was a good chance just to practice, and we definitely played some Oasis. She's Electric was one of our favourites at the time. So yeah, after sort of various school, university bands, it was at that point I started sort of writing my own stuff and really quite enjoyed that process of putting pen to paper and trying to think of something interesting or fun to write about. Generally, they were quite uplifting, motivational, kind of you can do it songs in the early days.
As we look into the story of a very special girl who would grace the courts of London and others around the world.
And then they kind of went a little bit more, deep in terms of the messages and the lyrics, but of some spiritual undertones, some kind of life stuff, which you can hear on an EP.
I'm broken. Will anyone notice the darkness inside? How will I survive?
Yeah, like those songs kind of helped me sort of express myself, I guess, and who I was and some of the things I've experienced in life.
And I won't give up on you, even when we're fighting. There is no denying that's what fathers do.
Become a father for the first time and losing a loved one and that kind of stuff. So that was a good time of growth, I guess, and maturity as a songwriter. And then we fast forward to kind of more recent years and I've gone down kind of the folk route, I'd say. This, middle-aged bloke quite likes an acoustic guitar and a foot-stomping beat. And I feel that's me at home now. I mean, I've obviously got a big love for Oasis and rock, but for me as an artist, I'd say I kind of fall into more of an indie folk kind of thing in the more recent years.
I'm living in the Matrix, in a place of curiosity, but I'm looking to escape it in my search for more.
At the end of 2023, I put an EP called Stop and Breathe out there. It was all in support of an organisation called One Tree Planted, who are big into reforestation around the world. Obviously, we know we've got some challenges ahead on that front with the sort of the climate change side of things. So that EP is quite special to me, and proceeds of streams of that do go into supporting their great works. So that's kind of a whistle-stop tour, I guess.
Hi, this is David Husted from Hollywood, Maryland. I love Derringer Discoveries.
I'm banging on the door, won't someone let me out? Doing things the hard way and it makes me want to shout. Will this little demon be on permanent patrol? I wonder what really might happen if I could just get on a roll. Whoa, there's something stirring in me. Whoa, because I want to break free.
Listeners, our special guest today is Alexander Joseph. We are calling him Alex. The song you've been hearing is one of his songs. It's called Break Free by today's special guest, Alexander Joseph.
Want to break free. to break free.
You are listening to Derringer Discoveries.
Alex, in addition to being a singer-songwriter, you are also a sports enthusiast. And my understanding is that you have a connection to the world of tennis. Please tell our listeners about that.
Yeah, okay. So my connection started when I was about 4, apparently, when I was maybe 1 foot from the TV watching Wimbledon. I was just obsessed, apparently, as a kid. And from the early days, I would then pick up a racket and play a lot. I tried to become a professional player. I mean, I played like on some of the international tour events at a kind of a low level, but realised that perhaps I didn't have quite what it took. So I went down the route of coaching and sports science at university, kind of mixed the two together. So I was playing tennis while studying, thinking about life, not as a tennis player, but more as someone who would support budding rising stars. So I spent some time on the road traveling with players as a kind of a hitting partner, as a fitness coach, and since then have worked across a variety of different sports, both in the Paralympic side of things more recently, and before then bobskeleton and netball and other things. But tennis has always been my big passion, so I've landed back there after exploring some other sports along the way, and I've now been 10 years working with the British wheelchair tennis players as part of the coaching team.
So how many times was your tennis racket turned into an air guitar?
Yeah. There is actually a song called A Racket in Hand that I released.
Put a racket in your hand for the world to see.
And that was the ITF, the International Tennis Federation, and there's a music video of me using a tennis racket as a guitar somewhere. Perhaps I shouldn't plug that too much. It's a little bit cringe, but you know.
Is it available on Spotify?
A Racket in Hand is, yes.
Okay. Well,
and it actually features one of the wheelchair tennis Grand Slam champion Paralympic medalists as well, called Jordan Wiley, who did some extra vocals on it as well, who actually sings really well. So that was quite a fun project.
And I assume it's on YouTube as well.
Oh, it might be. Yeah, the video could be.
We're going to have to dig that out and put it in the show notes.
That's fine, I guess.
A Racket in Hand by Alexander Joseph.
Yeah, A Racket in Hand, that's the one.
Before we move on to the Gallagher brothers, Alex, I would like you to tell us briefly about another song of yours, of which Derringer Discoveries is, let's just say, very enamored. We enjoy it very much. It's called Singing in Rio.
We remember our heroes who were singing in Rio for the people who don't give in and let the games begin. The games begin.
What's that song all about?
That song is about my journey, I guess, over the last 10 years with the wheelchair tennis group and the program. My first experience of a Paralympic Games was back in 2016 in Rio. And we had written the song A Racket in Hand in the build up to that. But years later, kind of reflecting back on my experiences there, just the vibrancy of the place, the enthusiasm and the energy of the people, I just figured I had to write about that. The song kind of is a reflection on that journey I've been on with those players, which, you know, I'll always remember.
You are listening to Derringer Discoveries, a music adventure podcast.
Alex is with us today to talk about Oasis, and everyone listening should know who Oasis is. In addition to producing incredible music, the Gallagher brothers, who really are the heart and soul of Oasis, they have also produced plenty of tabloid headlines, and that's because of their infamous feuding with each other.
I hate the term sibling rivalry, but that's effectively what it is.
It's even included an incident involving a tambourine. And that tambourine incident, caused Noel Gallagher to temporarily quit the band in 1994. The band reunited and toured extensively, selling out some shows in a matter of minutes. And as we're going to be talking about, they're selling them out right as we speak. They're selling out even more shows now that they're back together once again.
This is Matt Saxton, singer-songwriter and multi-instrumentalist from East Sussex, UK, and I listen to Derringer Discoveries.
Hi, my name is Alana Joy, and I'm the lead singer of alternative rock band Lost Youth. I love listening to Derringer Discoveries, a music adventure podcast.
As Paul mentioned, Oasis is back together and touring again, much to the delight of their fans everywhere.
Yeah, that's right, Alton. In 2023, Oasis and the Gallagher brothers announced that they would reunite if the terms were right. Apparently they were, and started making plans to tour the UK and Ireland in the summer of 2025. They've added dates in the USA, Australia, and Asia. And Alex, what do you think? Given the history of the band, do you think that they can survive this extensive touring?
Is anyone here prepared to say just what they mean, or is it too late?
You know what? I've always been glass half full, so I'm going to say yes. And also to quote them, don't look back in anger.
But don't look back in anger, I heard you say.
You know, I reckon they can do this. I think they've put some of those years behind them. And, you know, how much of it was a little bit for the camera, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know them personally, but I reckon they've got this. It should be great.
All right. Well, we like that, Alex. We should go around the table. Let's go around the table real quick. Alex thinks that they can make it through the tour. I'll go ahead and weigh in, and then I'll go to Laura and Alton. Here's my concern. I think when they started this reunited effort, they started on a small scale with just a few shows, but because they were selling out so quickly, they keep adding shows, and now they're coming to the United States. I worry that they may have added too many shows, and I'm just worried that at some point it may all go kaput. Laura, what are your thoughts?
I think they'll make it. They're older, wiser, more mature, and there's a whole new generation of fans that really want to hear this music, and yeah, I think it'll be fine.
All right, Alton, which side are you on? You on Alex and Laura's side, or are your best friends Paul's side?
Well, if you've seen the price of the tickets, they're going to be making bank on this tour, so I think they're going to make it through.
They're just going to have some handlers keep them apart and make sure they stay.
That's right.
Get massages at every show.
Separate airplanes, separate buses.
Separate hotels.
Yeah, you got it.
Unfortunately, I didn't manage to get tickets, though. I mean, I was trying so hard, but I'm not going to be able to get there, which is a real shame. So what about you guys? Are you able to get and see them at any point?
I don't pay that much for a show. Unless they comp me a ticket, I won't be going.
Fair enough.
I'm with you.
The nosebleed type tickets in some of their U.S. shows, at a minimum, $300.
Yeah,
and that's for a crappy seat.
Yeah, it's really expensive. You know, good seats will run you $1,000.
God, that's a lot, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
You are listening to Derringer Discoveries.
With listeners in more than 30 countries.
Bonjour, this is Elliot Murphy coming to you from Paris, France. You're listening to Derringer Discoveries, a music adventure podcast.
Hey, this is Anthony from Fantastic Cat coming to you from New York City. You are listening to Derringer Discoveries, a music adventure podcast.
Listeners, who really knows if the Gallagher brothers will stay reconciled for this tour? But I can tell you one thing for sure, Oasis has given us some unforgettable tunes over the years. Our special guest, Alexander Joseph, better known as Alex, is here to share his top 5 favorite Oasis songs so far. Paul, why don't you kick us off with number 5?
Definitely, Alton. I will reveal number 5. And by the way, these were chosen by Alex, and we're simply going with his top 5. Listeners, if you have your own top 5, and if it differs from Alex, write us. We'd love to hear about your top 5, and we might just publish it on our website. Alex, before I reveal your number 5 pick, I would like to ask you something. In each episode, we like to find out how our special guests feel about the artist that they picked. You picked Oasis to talk about. So the question is, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being phenomenal, 1 being I don't like them at all, on a scale of 1 to 10, what are your thoughts? How do you feel about Oasis?
Well, the good news is it's definitely not a 1.
Excellent.
We're glad to hear that. We didn't ask in advance, so we really didn't know.
When I was a kid, I was probably a good 9 here. It was just everything growing up. I'm probably just mellowed a bit on that score since, but I still love them for the memories it brings back. So I'm going to say a solid 8 now.
Derringer Discovery's guest pick number 5.
At number 5 from the 1994 album, Definitely Maybe, the song is Live Forever.
Maybe I don't really want to know how you got and grows.
This was the band's first top 10 hit in the United Kingdom, and it was the third release from the album. Alex, tell our listeners why Live Forever is your pick number 5.
Okay, so I'm about to give my age away here a little bit. So I was around 12 or so, 12, 13 when this came out. So for me, I guess thinking about the real meaning behind the song wasn't a massive thing, even though I love what it stands for, living forever, being free. But for me, it was the gritty vocals of Liam, and it was the guitar solos that did it for me. There's some legendary guitar solos in there. So I just love that part, and growing up now, thinking about what it means to sort of be free, to live forever. I think it actually is. I think the song is a part tribute to their mother, from what I understand. But yeah, I just loved the kind of the vibe by it, but mainly the guitars.
All right, you picked a song written by Noel. I'm going to put you on the spot, Alex.
Yeah.
Do you lean toward Noel or Liam, or do you treat them equal?
Yeah, they're very different, aren't they? They're so
they are.
Different.
That's why they don't get along.
yeah. Like I think what makes them though is the fact that you've got two brothers there who bring such different things to the table. So there's songs that in here in my top 5, there are songs from both of them when they sing. So I'm going to be on the fence here on this one and just stay nice and neutral and say I like them both equally.
Good answer.
Yeah. Listeners, that's Live Forever. That is Alex's pick number 5.
This is Addison from Fort Worth, Texas. We are all listening to Derringer Discoveries, a music adventure podcast.
Laura, let's take it to you with number 4.
Derringer Discovery's guest pick number 4.
Paul, at number 4, we have The Master Plan. This song was released in 1995 as a B-side to Wonderwall, a little song we might talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
Die-hard fans absolutely love this song, even though it may not be one of their most well-known or popular. It was an absolute staple at their concerts. Alex, what is it about The Master Plan that makes it your pick number 4?
Take the time to make some sense of what you want to say.
Well, I think it's a bit different, isn't it, this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got some amazing brass and string sections in there, and the way that all kind of comes to a big finish. I think is amazing. So I think instrumentally there's something different about it from what we were used to around the electric guitars and the sort of wall of noise. And I guess, the master plan, is it about this bigger plan that we're all part of? Kind of like sort of the suggestion of there's a bigger plan out there. We might not know what's going on half the time, but there's something that's, hopefully taking the lead. But yeah, so I think it's a mixture of the sort of the message, but also the instrumentation.
I love the song. I think it's fantastic, and it is a departure from their other sound because to me it is more melodic and more of a piano-driven, orchestra-driven song, which is what I go for.
Listeners, that's The Master Plan, Alex's pick number 4. Alton, off to you for number 3.
Derringer Discovery's guest pick number 3.
All right, thanks, Laura. So, Alex, I actually like this song. It's probably my favorite Oasis song. The song is called Wonderwall. It's from their iconic album, What's the Story, Morning Glory, and it was a smash hit in 15 countries.
Today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you. By now, you should have somehow realized what you gotta do.
That song still resonates with me today. I think it's a fantastic song. It was written by Noel Gallagher. The song remains one of the band's most beloved tracks. And did you know that Wonderwall was the first song from the 1990s to hit 1 billion, that's with a B, 1 billion streams on Spotify?
Yeah.
Personally, I think that's incredible.
It puts you in a whole different category once you hit 1 billion. Not many artists can hit 1 billion.
Yeah, and I don't even know when Spotify started. I can remember waiting for it to come over to the U.S. when I first heard about it. I actually told Paul about it early on.
And I was like, it'll never catch on. It's a fad.
I'll stick with my CDs.
I like my CDs.
I've got back into vinyl though. I've managed to pick up some of, What's the Story, Morning Glory. I've got on vinyl right here. So I love that. I know streaming's taken over a bit, but the CDs are still there, the vinyl's still going. So I love that kind of mix.
I love to put vinyl on my walls. That's where vinyl goes for me.
You're my
I sold all of my vinyl years ago when we were moving. I had gotten tired of carrying it with me along the way and sold everything, and it just kills me to this day.
Yeah.
But, oh well. Tell our listeners, why did you choose Wonderwall as your number 3 pick?
I'd say it was one of the first songs that I learned to play on guitar because I connected with it. It was so popular at the time. Again, I was just going as a teenager at that point. I'd binned playing the piano because it wasn't cool enough. Oasis were on the scene.
Yeah.
So I was acoustic guitar is the way now, maybe electric. But yeah, so it's one of the first things I learned. So that's always going to stay with me. And I've performed it so many times at various gigs with the covers band I was with and open mic nights when I used to run those. I like kind of the messaging as well. Is it like a metaphorical person of hope or salvation that kind of you're looking to? It's obviously very uplifting and it's kind of a feel-good song in that sense. So yeah, it's again a mix of the lyrics, the messaging, but for me personally, being able to play it so when I was young.
Listeners, that is a snippet of Alexander Joseph's number 3 pick by the band Oasis. The song is Wonderwall. Paul, we're going to bounce it back to you for number 2.
Derringer Discovery's guest pick number 2.
Thank you, Alton.
Slip inside the eye of your mind. Don't you know you might find?
I will say this, the first 2 songs I heard by Oasis was the number 3 pick, Wonderwall, and this number 2 pick. And I was in a record store. This is back in the 1996-97 period. I was still going to record stores. And as anyone knows who remembers record stores, you'd go into the record store and they'd be playing music over the loudspeakers. And it was usually whoever was working at the store at the time. And I went in and they were playing this song.
Please don't put your life in the hands of a rock and roll band. We'll throw it all away.
And then I went back a couple weeks later and they were playing the song. So that's when I had to stop and ask them, who is this? And that's when I learned about Oasis. I also learned that the person who was working that day said his 2 favorite bands were the Beatles and Oasis. So I knew right then and there that this was something big. This was just not a flash in the pan. At number 2, Alex has picked Don't Look Back in Anger.
But don't look back in anger. I heard you say.
It is also from What's the Story, Morning Glory, released in February 1996. This was Oasis's second number 1 single in the UK. So yes, by this point, they are humongous. Noel Gallagher has said that when the band first performed the song live in concert, he had just written the song less than 1 week before. So he had written it, they turn around 1 week later, they play it, and then they have a number 1 hit. Love that stuff. Alex, why is Don't Look Back in Anger your pick number 2?
I mean, it's an absolute sing-along, I think. It's just one of those that over the years, school, high school, going into uni, even in Paris at the end of the games just last year with the team, there's so many occasions I can just think of when I've been with people and we've just sung it to the top of our voice, to the point when we can't speak the next day. So I think for me, I've just had a lot of good memories with the song and being with friends and those around me. I love the piano and how the piano kicks it all off. Kind of a cool message again around not looking back in anger, just moving on.
Right.
So for those reasons, that's why it's right in there at number 2.
Yeah, and you've kind of chosen it as the theme song for Liam and Noel as they reunite on this upcoming tour that's going to take them everywhere. You're sort of giving them a message. Don't look back in anger. Let's focus on the future. I like that a lot.
Absolutely.
Don't look back in anger. Don't look back in anger. I heard you say.
And that is Don't Look Back in Anger. Today's special guest, Alexander Joseph's number 2 pick.
This is Tommy Curry of indie folk rock outfit The Currys from Charlottesville, Virginia. You're listening to Derringer Discoveries, a music adventure podcast.
Derringer Discoveries guest pick number 1.
Alton, we're going to break with tradition. I did number 2, so I can't do number 1. Who's at number 1?
Are you serious? Paul actually gave up the number 1.
I gave up the number 1. I guess I shouldn't say who's at number 1. We know it's Oasis, but what song of theirs is at number 1?
The number 1 pick by our special guest today is another hit from the album What's the Story? Morning Glory. The hit is Champagne Supernova. They're not released in the UK, which is hard to believe. It was a huge hit here in the US. The songwriting, Noel's vocals, the lyrics, it just made it an iconic song for the 1990s. Alex, tell us, why is Champagne Supernova your number 1 pick?
How many special people change? How many lives are living strange? Where were you while we were getting high?
Yeah, I just find this song as, like, especially at the beginning, it's a proper escape. Like, really, like that floating along kind of chilled start to it, and the sonics around that. I just think it's amazing. And then the way it starts to build and gets a bit more rocky again towards the end that you expect. It goes on for so long. It's a proper musical journey they're taking you on with this one. I'm not entirely sure I always follow the lyrics in it and what they mean. You know, it's one of those, isn't it, where you can interpret it, I guess, in whatever way you want. But yeah, I just think it's just a proper musical journey, and I love how it goes up and down along the way.
Yeah, and it's 7.5 minutes long. They have a lot of time to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a cool song. Well, listeners, that is Champagne Supernova, wrapping up the top 5 favorite songs of Oasis so far, as chosen by our special guest, Alexander Joseph.
You've been listening to Derringer Discoveries, a music adventure podcast.
Alexander, now that we've wrapped this up, do you have any shout-outs that you would like to give to friends, family, fans?
Well, I should probably start with family, because they're the ones who hear most of my songs on repeat as they kind of get written. By which, at the end of it, they probably don't like them. But yeah, my 3 kids are normally the best judge. If they're kind of singing along, and I always ask our middle one if he thinks this one should be released, and he gives me the thumbs up or thumbs down. So I have to thank the kids and my wife for tolerating my repeat playing and perfectionism around trying to make sure it's as good as it can be. They're a huge support, to be fair. So definitely those guys.
Do you want to shout them out by name?
Yeah. Like Ruben is the drummer. He's 9. Eddie, or Edison, is our 5-year-old lad who wants to play electric guitar. That's his next thing. And Millie's our daughter, who likes to dance.
Ruben, Eddie, and Millie, hello from Derringer Discoveries.
Ah, fantastic.
Who else do you have?
A good friend, Aaron Bixby, who produced and or mixed most of these tracks with me. and he's really helped me to kind of grow as an artist and explore kind of the sound that I've ended up with. So I have a big shout out to him and Andy Baker, who did a similar thing, plus a guy called Terence Waldeck, who helped me record my first ever demo when I decided this was a thing. So those guys, a big shout out to them. Yeah, and anyone who listens, anyone who follows my music, obviously it's nice to know that I'm not just writing for my 3 kids and my wife. When I hear people who feedback about how the song's special in some way or has left a positive mark, that makes it all worthwhile, because I write music to connect with people, and that's the beauty of it.
You step out and make your choice and follow the still small voice.
Alexander, or should we say Alex, as you know, you are Alexander Joseph when you record on Spotify and other platforms. But today, for anyone who listens to Derringer Discoveries, you know what's about to happen.
Uh-oh.
You know that we are about to dub Alexander Joseph officially an honorary Derringer. That's right. Alex, from now on, in addition to being Alexander Joseph, whenever you want to, if ever you're trying to avoid authorities, you can say that you are Alexander Derringer.
And we'll back you up on that.
Fantastic.
Alex, now that you are honorary Derringer, tell our listeners where they can find you on social media when you're recording as Alexander Joseph.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite active on social media. I'm not on it every day, but you'll find me on Instagram probably the most, and it's A Joseph Music, so a shortened version of Alexander Joseph. So that's it. And then same on X or Twitter, same thing, isn't it? And on YouTube. And I dabble in TikTok, but yeah. So A Joseph Music overall, yeah.
Listeners, until next time.
This is Laura Derringer.
This is Alton Derringer.
I'm Paul Derringer.
And I'm Alexander Derringer.
This has been Derringer Discoveries, a music adventure podcast. Song snippets were used in this episode to aid in the discussion, critique, and analysis of the songs.
To hear all of today's songs and artists, we encourage listeners to like and listen to our Spotify playlist. You can find the link on our show notes.
And you can follow us on social media. We are at Derringer Discoveries on Facebook and at Derringer Pod on Instagram, X, and Threads. And you've been listening to Derringer Discoveries, a music adventure podcast.
In your sister's room. That's where it started. In your sister's room.
It is funny, the disparity, isn't it, Alex? What you can charge versus what Oasis can charge.
I'll just play for free, Why not? Be generous.
Just what a dad of 3 needs to do. Yes, play for free.
That's it. Put food on the table, kids.
All right, who's got the next one? I guess I do. All right.
That's why we've been sitting here,
sorry.
Alton. We've been like, waiting
yeah,
for you.
sorry. I just totally zoned out.
That sounds like a Laura Derringer answer. Laura's always staying on the fence.
Yeah. But, we're going off on a tangent now, a little bit, if I'm allowed to.
Yeah.
We never do that.
No, of course not. Of course not.
Probably in front of 120,000 people.
Yeah, similar to my gigs,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Instagram's my favorite. That's the one I use.
Yeah, he likes to look at the pictures. It's the words that throw him.
Yeah. Well, it's a quick way to see what's happening with the other musicians out there.
As we like to say around here, if Laura's happy, everybody's happy.
Sounds good. Absolutely.